Mitchie Williams was a young detective with a difficult past. She had lost both parents at an early age. They were murdered when she was only 10 years old. After that, she lived in an orphanage with no relatives to take her in. She studied hard and had always been obsessed with the case of her parents' murder. Over the years, she collected every scrap of information. She wrote down every single memory she had of them. She kept it all pinned on a thinkboard. When she finished school, she became a rookie police officer. She quickly proved herself to be talented, and in a relatively short time, she earned the rank of detective. She had two main goals. The first, to find the people who had murdered her parents, and the second, to help others get answers in similar cases. The year was 1995. Mitchie hadn't had any new information about her parents' case for years. She was fully dedicated to her job and her day-to-day cases. That gloomy Monday morning, she went to work as usual. On the way to the station, she stopped by a nearby kiosk to buy the latest edition of the newspaper, then dropped into a small cafe to get her usual black coffee, no sugar. The stronger, the better. She arrived at the station. On her way to her office, she noticed a few younger officers huddled together, clearly upset about something. She was used to rookies being shaken after crime scene calls. They'll get used to it, she thought as she passed by. Inside her office, she sat down to enjoy her coffee before starting the day. On her desk was a box of evidence for a case she had taken over 2 days ago, along with a full file, witness statements, phone records, and other materials. It was a gruesome case. The murder of a young woman whose body had been found on the grass by the roadside, cut in half. Several organs were missing. Her face had been carved into, and strange markings covered her back. Mitchie still hadn't figured out what they meant. In the victim's mouth was a crumpled piece of paper with a disturbing verse. "If the black lily comes for you, your soul will leave before dawn." And in her hair, a single flower, a black lily. That was all they had. Just as Mitchie was about to take the last sip of her coffee, the phone rang. It was her partner, Detective Joe Peterson. "Mitchie, we've got another one. You need to come right now." Mitchie drove to Summerling Street, where in the bushes by the road lay the body of another young woman, no more than 17. The exact same position, the same mutilations, the same piece of paper with the same verse in her mouth, the same flower in her hands. It was clear, the same killer. She ordered both autopsies to be done side by side to look for further similarities and had the fingerprints taken to identify the victims. Days passed. More bodies appeared. Within a month, there were 13 victims, all murdered the same way, each with the same note in their mouths and the same black lily in their hands. The autopsies revealed more. Inside each victim's stomach was another piece of paper with a different verse, each one referring to a particular sin. From this, Mitchie concluded that the killer believed these women had committed some grave sin. The symbol of the black lily supported this idea. According to a legend Mitchie found while investigating the meaning of the black lily was a mark of judgment for someone who had committed betrayal. Mitchie found and read this story about a small village near the city of Orleans. In the tale, a widow named Marie Lefebvre had found a single black lily wrapped in a scrap of cloth on her doorstep. In the village, people whispered that this was the mark of judgment from a secret brotherhood of local farmers who punished those they believed had betrayed the community. 3 days later, Marie was found dead in her garden, suffocated, face down in the soil, a bouquet of black lilies beside her body. The killer was never found. Mitchie was determined to catch this murderer. She managed to identify all the victims. At first glance, they seemed unrelated. All led quiet lives, lived alone, and had jobs. Then she noticed something strange. All of them were between 17 and 19 years old. Digging deeper into their personal lives, Mitchie discovered an apparently insignificant detail. At some point, every one of these girls had rented an apartment from the same landlord. Each had lived, even if only briefly, in apartment 6, 3rd floor, 567 Willow Street. New York was a big city, and tenants changed often. That alone wasn't suspicious. But the fact that they were all murdered made it more than a coincidence. The landlord's name was George Murdoch, a man in his 50s with a spotless criminal record. He was a historian and a scholar of various mythologies, and he lived in the apartment next door to the one he rented out. Mitchie and Joe went to question him about the victims. George welcomed them politely. He was quiet, calm, almost too calm, and his piercing gaze made Mitchie feel as if he could see straight into her soul, reading every fear and pain she had ever carried. They began asking questions about the victims, showing him photos from the crime scenes. He didn't flinch. When Mitchie showed him a photo of the black lilies and asked what they might mean, given his knowledge of history and mythology, he confirmed her own findings about the legend. He simply added, "Those poor girls must have done something truly terrible if the black lily found them." The detectives prepared to leave, having gained nothing new besides confirmation of the lily's meaning. As they headed toward the door, a Persian cat suddenly darted past their legs, pure white with striking blue eyes. Rare and elegant. George picked it up, apologizing, and explained that he'd had her for years. That night, Mitchie stayed up late, looking at the photos of the verses and the black lilies. How can anyone believe they have the right to judge someone like this? You won't get away with this. I'll catch you. Mitchie and Joe worked tirelessly, interviewing the families, friends, co-workers, and even former lovers of each victim. They dug through every relationship, every argument, every possible grudge, hoping to find a thread that connected the women beyond the brutality of their deaths. But there was nothing. No shared acquaintances, no overlapping social circles, no suspicious behavior from anyone close to them. Each victim's life appeared painfully ordinary, their routines unremarkable. The only thing they seemed to have in common was that someone had decided they deserved to die. One morning, as she walked into the station, Joe and a forensic specialist were already waiting for her. The specialist explained that they had completed the analysis of all items found on the victims. In nearly every case, they had found long white animal hairs, definitely cat hairs, likely from a Persian breed. Mitchie and Joe exchanged a glance. "The professor," they said at the same time. They took the forensic reports, obtained a search warrant, and headed to George's apartment with backup. The search revealed a hidden passage between his apartment and the one he rented, a passage that led to mirrors installed in every room of the rental. He had used them to spy on his tenants. George confessed to the murders. He claimed the women were sinners, traitors to their own people, and that they had to die to create a pure, sinless community. He said he had been chosen to cleanse the world. Mitchie was happy he caught the monster and could put him behind bars.